It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. Hey, what's up guys? So today I wanted to talk to you about my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I'm going to give you the disclaimer up front. No, I am not an alcoholic. Actually, I attended this meeting and I experienced what it's like because it's one of my class assignments for pastoral care and counseling. And to be honest with you, that was a pretty eye-opening experience. I just got back. It was about an hour and a half long, the meeting. And do you guys remember when I made that video titled, Dear Christians, why can't we act more like AA? Well, at that time, I've never experienced AA before. It's actually what I heard from secondhand experiences. I was told that they were very warm, compassionate, and they're very supportive. Well, after going through an AA meeting myself, that statement is so much more solidified in my head. Like, that was such a beautiful experience. However, my heart also hurts because at the end of the day, they are also God's people. And to become drug addicts, you know, it tugs at your heartstrings, you know what I'm saying? Like, to see how drugs can really ruin someone's life, and it's sad, you know? But yeah, let me share with y'all my experience with AA. The moment I walked in through the doors, it was located at a clubhouse, which is like, it's an actual house that they turned into an AA meeting place. So anyone can go there at any hour for help or for support. So I thought that was amazing first off, and it really reminded me the similarities of a local church, how it's supposed to be there for the community and the neighborhood and for the people around. So I thought that was good. As soon as I walked through the doors, man, I was greeted by a guy, and he walked straight up to me. He was like, hey, you're new here. I haven't seen you before. My name is, you know, blank. And I was just like, wow, that's a pretty warm welcome. So I was like, this is cool. But I'm gonna be honest with you, like, at first, before I walked in, I was really nervous because I was like, I don't know what to expect. I know that a lot of people that are gonna be there are drug addicts, they're court issued to be there, and some of them are gonna have, you know, mental illnesses. And so I was kind of scared. I was like, oh man, I don't know what to expect, you know? But I think right off the bat, man, like it was a good impression that someone just greeted me and was talking to me and was just like, yeah, you know, alcohol ruined my life, and these meetings are what helps me get by. And I was just like, man, that says something about that organization, especially about that support group, right? And before I go any further, if you don't know what Alcoholics Anonymous is, it's a recovery support group for people that are addicted to drugs and specifically alcohol. The focus is on alcohol. And so it's a bunch of people that have something in common, a similarity, which is that alcohol had a negative impact on their life. And as a result, now they're gathering and trying to help support, build, and encourage one another to overcome it and stay sober. So in a gist, I guess that's what Alcoholics Anonymous is, especially after experiencing it myself. And then after I was greeted by one of the fellow attendees, I got a chance to look around the room. It kind of reminded me of like a living situation of like college students, where like 10 people rent out a house together and they decorate it, and it's a big house, but it's still a home for all of them, so it's like a family feel. Yeah, that's exactly the same kind of vibes I got. And one thing that really stood out for me is that around the walls, it was plastered with inspirational quotes and sayings. And I wrote down some of them, the ones that caught my attention, such as, just for today, one day at a time, everything in God's time, it's all about family, welcome home. Now those stuck out for me because when you think about a addicts recovery meeting or support group, you think of it as like a woof, I don't want to be associated with them, or you might think they're a cult or think they're kind of weird, right? The same thing that goes through your head when you think about churches, like, ooh, I don't want to be associated with them, they're a cult. That's the exact same thing to think about, right? But actually experiencing it and sitting down with them, man, you learn quickly that although the differentiating factor between you and them might be like they're addicted to drugs and they're trying to get over it and you're not addicted to drugs, whatever, at the end of the day, whatever the situation may be or the variables, you are still human. You have so much more in common than you think, right? Like, that's your fellow human beings, man. And as long as you recognize that fact, bonding with them and getting along with them is so much easier. But if you walk around in life with this notion in your head like, I'm better than others, I don't want to associate myself with them, or that's a cult, they're weird, they're scary, or those are drug addicts, don't touch me. If that's the way you walk around in life, judging people, being a hypocrite, I'm telling you right now, man, at the end of the day, you're gonna be very angry and bitter in your own heart. right? You gotta look at these people and realize that they are your fellow brothers and sisters as well, man. They're human beings as well. They had a family, they have kids. You see what I'm trying to get at, right? They have a heart, they have feelings, they have a story, a unique perspective on their journey in life, right? If you just give them the opportunity to talk to you about it, right? You would learn like, wow, I can't believe you went through that. You're an amazing person, you're stronger than I thought. That's the kind of experiences you would have. But anyways, moving on. Another thing that I noticed is that Alcoholics Anonymous, they have something called the Alcoholics Anonymous book. And they just title it the Big Book. And for them, it was like their version of the Bible, similar to a church. How a church has a Bible that gives you guidelines and a doctrine. Alcoholics Anonymous also has their own, and it's called the Big Book. And it has a lot of principles and a step-by-step program on how to overcome alcohol addiction. And I think it was about 12 steps. And one thing that really stood out for me is, although Alcoholics Anonymous is not per se a church, almost every single aspect and step of the way felt like a church. Let me explain myself. Like, we opened up with a prayer. All around the walls, it talks about God. The principles include, okay, so remember it has 12 steps to recovery? They also have 12 principles that they live by. Listen to this, okay? Number 1, honesty, hope, faith, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, brotherly love. Now, does that sound similar to you? Love one another as I've loved you. 9 is justice, 10 perseverance, 11 is spirituality, and 12 is service. Now, hey, if I saw those 12 words and you didn't tell me what it was about, I would probably think in my head it's a church, okay? So that's the exact same feelings I got towards AA. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I can't believe this is an organization that serves its local community to help them overcome these drug addictions. I was like, man, this is beautiful. But moving on, another thing that I really noticed is that it was a no judging zone. No matter what you look like or what your background was, everyone was very open, welcoming, and friendly towards one another. It didn't matter if you were black, white, Asian, if you were overweight, skinny, if you were a man or a woman, it didn't matter. At the end of the day, we all recognized that each and every single one of us has a heart and that we're all humans and that we're all there for the same purpose, to support one another and get by in life as a group, as a community effort and a family. I thought that was really beautiful. So yeah, we opened up with a prayer, and then everyone introduced themselves with their name, and then everyone in the room would repeat that name. And I had the total count. It was 23 people showed up, and then plus or minus 2 people who came in late or left early. So it was about 25 people in total, okay? And I wrote down here, like I brought my notepad because it is a class assignment, and I went there, right? So that I can experience this type of support group and so that I can grow as a pastor, so that in the future when I counsel people in my congregation, I know how to better talk to them and I can have more of an understanding of what they're going through, and I can recommend AA to them because I've experienced it myself now. You know, one of the professors that I have, he said it like this: you can't lead your flock where you haven't been before. And I'm starting to see the truth and validity in that, seriously. And that's why when I counsel people and I talk to them about depression, anxiety, suicide, pressure, and all that stuff, I can relate to them, I can empathize because I've been there, man. And now that I've actually experienced AA, now if I talk to someone and they're telling me like, yo, Woojong, I'm having an addiction problem, I don't know what to do, this alcohol thing is getting out of hand, I got a DUI, I'm gonna listen to them, okay? I'm gonna try my best to listen with an open ear, open heart. And then I'm gonna also suggest with them, hey man, have you thought about attending AA? Like, bro, if you're scared, I'll go with you. We'll go together. You see what I'm saying, right? Now that I experienced AA, now I understand how good it actually is. And let me get back to that point. So after the name introductions and everyone familiarized themselves with one another, we moved on to the next portion of the meeting. Now, this meeting was titled an open discussion meeting, which means there wasn't a theme or like a doctrine or a schedule of events. Rather, it was a chance for all of us to just open up and share with one another our confessions or testimonies. And I thought that was healing in itself. Even if you don't say anything, just being in that environment and listening to others, that actually helps you get over whatever it is you're going through. So if all of you guys have a common denominator, which is maybe you're all struggling with alcoholism and you're trying to get over it together, that actually helps, man. Seriously, there's psychological evidence that says in a group effort setting, it helps one another get over it. It's a pretty interesting phenomenon. But anyways, one by one, everyone gave their confession and were telling everyone their stories about how alcohol, destroyed their previous life and how AA and the support group and their family and friends have helped them overcome it. Now this is where remember I said I'll come right back to it? For some of them, they have been sober for like 15, 25 years and they still come back to AA meetings because for them to overcome their addiction to alcohol, AA played a pivotal point in their lives. That's how big it was for them to overcome their addiction to alcohol. So even if they haven't had a drink in 15 to 25 years, they still come back in order to help the new ones, the ones that are suffering currently from alcohol. And that really reminded me of like a church, right? In a congregation, everyone's gonna have differing levels of spirituality, and everyone's gonna be on a different path with God. No one's gonna be on the same path, right? Everyone's gonna have a unique experience and unique path. And some people in your congregation are gonna be way wise, have way more maturity and years beyond what you have, right? But that doesn't mean that they're better than you, right? At the end of the day, they are all on the same team as you as well. We are all struggling with sin. And just like with AA, even though they're sober for 15 or 20, 25 years, do you not think they have that urge or temptation to be like, oh, I gotta drink? They do, of course, right? It's human nature. Like, even if you're a Christian, it does not mean that you're never gonna sin again. You see what I'm trying to say, right? And then after everyone shared their confessions, we moved on to the next portion, which really spoke volumes to me. That reminds me of a church, okay? They had a time where they dedicated to just offering, where they passed around a basket asking for donations. And this is quote unquote what they say. Alcoholics Anonymous is self-sustaining. So we're able to continue due to contributions from you, okay? And they were passing around a basket and people were throwing in dollars and money. From my understanding, Alcoholics Anonymous is self-autonomous, meaning they raise their own funds and the money that they make is from the people that attend. And so that's how they are able to continue to operate, which reminds me of a local church as well, because a local church also is able to continue and operate due to contributions from the congregation. And why? Why should we have a church? Well, if you think about it, what does a church do for its attendees in return? Right? It takes care of their spiritual health. It provides counseling services. It teaches and nourishes your children. The church prays for you. There's community with small groups and Bible study groups and fellowships. And the church is just all around there to serve you, for the community, for the neighborhood, right? The same reasons why Alcoholics Anonymous does offering, so that it can continue to operate and serve the people that come. Cool, right? So after offering, we all stood up and we held hands and we closed in prayer, which I thought was freaking amazing. And that wraps up my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I gotta say, when I walked into it, man, I didn't really have an expectation. For me, I was going in as more of like an observational student role. And with that in mind, I just wanted to learn as much as I could and soak it all in so that I could become a better pastor and so that I can understand and have compassion towards these recovery support groups. But I walked away realizing like, that was beautiful. I walked away experiencing AA, but the dark side of all of this is it truly broke my heart to see God's people like that be like crippled by drugs. You know what I mean? Like, just to see that, just to be with them, just to hear their stories, man, it's just, it really does, man. It brings tears to your heart, you know? I don't know, maybe you can relate to me on this. The next time you see someone in public, maybe in traffic or somewhere in a public place, and they're acting kind of out of the ordinary, and they're being rude towards you, don't jump to the conclusion like, oh, that person's a blank, 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 but rather try to have some understanding and perspective like, maybe this person has been dealing with drug addiction for years and they're homeless and their wife walked out on them and they're going through a tough trial in their life, right? If you think about it from that scope of lens, it's gonna be hard for you to just bark back. Or if someone's tailgating you, to just, slam the brakes and flick them off. Like, you will have a little bit more patience to be kind towards our neighbors. You see what I'm trying to get at, right? Because when we see people acting out of the ordinary in public, our first, or at least for me, one of our first thoughts to ourselves, or we jump to the conclusion is like, oh, that person, we judge them like, oh, what's wrong with them? Whoa. But how about like try to see where they're coming from? Like, it's been 3 days since they've had food. Like, they've been in and out of jail, their family disowned them, they don't have a support system, and they're lonely, man. And so they're having anger outbursts and they're taking it out on others. If you see it from that scope of lens, like, you would feel compassion for them and try to help them out, or not judge them at least. Just look at them and be like, man, I'm gonna pray for you. There's so much power in prayer. So if you see someone like that, maybe pray for them later that day, right? Or before you sleep, think about them, be like, God, please protect that person that I saw today. Please guide them. Please allow them to know that they are not forgotten and that they are a beloved child of yours. Please show them. Please give them a sign that you want them to turn back to you. Something like that, right? Pray to God for them. But with all that said, if you are going through some sort of an addiction, or your drugs are ruining your life, I highly recommend that you seek help. Okay, and that you try out and then attend an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. You've got nothing to lose. It's only an hour or hour and a half of your time. But I will say this, I won't make any promises, but that even that one meeting can change your life dramatically for the better. And with that said, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take it easy.